Hello everyone, After 101 here. Today I'm going to be doing a video on Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. I'm going to be reviewing just, Godzilla fighting Mechagodzilla, maybe some Kong scenes when he was down, but that's pretty much it. And then probably my next video I'm going to do, Godzilla and Kong versus Mechagodzilla. So, let's get this battle started. So, obviously after defeating Kong, Godzilla walks to Apex's facility, and now, as Mechagodzilla, is now has the Ghidorah spirit in him. All the vengeance and anger built up from 2019 has now funneled into a now new robotic form. As Mechagodzilla bursts out of his chamber, just like him bursting out from the ice and King of the Monsters, now he faces down Godzilla, his one true enemy. But first, he unleashes his ray, his proton screen upon the humans who dare, intervene and dare cause him so much suffering and misery. Just, being born, or just, being there, and he just kills them. Also, because he knows Godzilla wants to protect the world, so he's like, just having a little bit of fun. But then he turns to Godzilla and laughs at him, and this probably just angers Godzilla even more, as Godzilla blindly charges in, and Mechagodzilla charges in as well, beginning to fire missiles from little packs on his, shoulders. And as this is happening, Godzilla is just being laced with rockets. They're hitting him all over his body. He's screaming and flailing, but yet he's still running, straight forward. Nothing can stop him at this point. And, Mechagodzilla maybe slows him down a little bit, but other than that, doesn't really accomplish too much. Eventually, though, Godzilla was able to, get up close to Mechagodzilla and ducks down and hits Mechagodzilla in his, stomach waist area. And then as the two slam into each other, the two kind of back up a little distance away, and Mechagodzilla now turns to face Godzilla, and his thrusters on his back begin to, charge up, and they shoot Mechagodzilla forward, pushing him into the air, and Mechagodzilla, with a supercharged fist, comes down and hits Godzilla in his chest. The impact sends Godzilla flying to the ground, as we just see, this cool scene of, from Godzilla's point of view, pretty much. And also, from the impact, you can also see, blue energy from the Hollow Earth is going through Godzilla's body, probably causing more, pain internally. And you can see, Godzilla's ribs in some scenes. And it's just showing just how brutal this fight really is. The next scene, I believe, it's a scene where, Godzilla just gets up. He lunges at Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla, kind of grabs him and hits him over the head. One good, swing. And Godzilla's head goes down. And Godzilla is able to recover from this relatively quickly, as he usually does from most impacts. Raises up and tries to grab Mechagodzilla. Then I believe it, because then Mechagodzilla grabs Godzilla by his throat, and Godzilla, tries to he's roaring at him, claws forward, slashing, trying to at least, as Godzilla's hand, Mechagodzilla's hand hits him across his face, and then he grabs Godzilla by his neck and pulls him into building after building. Each impact, harder, harder than the next, as Godzilla is literally helpless, as Mechagodzilla easily overpowers him. And it's just humiliating, because in every other fight, Godzilla has, been shown to at least, be going hand to hand for at least a little bit against his opponents. But in this fight, it's not even fair. Now, you do have to take into account that Godzilla did use a lot of his energy, but still, it's just really humiliating just how easy Mechagodzilla is just beating him. Of course, Mechagodzilla was designed to beat Godzilla, so that is one thing you would have to take into account when it comes down to, how he would fight against, Godzilla. We see Godzilla next. Godzilla is lunging in for Kong, and they're kind of running in. The two are kind of like a distance away as Godzilla runs towards Mechagodzilla, and Mechagodzilla kind of acts like he's gonna go one way, and as Godzilla lunges for him, he uses his boosters to help, him juke around Godzilla so he gets behind him. Then uses the boosters to when he grabs Godzilla to help spin him around. So he ends up throwing Godzilla, right back where So now Godzilla is right where Mechagodzilla just was, but on the ground. And then next time we see Godzilla, Godzilla gets back up, shaking the dust off. He takes a few steps forward, charges up his breath, and fires it. He knows he cannot beat Mechagodzilla in a purely hand-to-hand confrontation, so now he tries to take this with range. So he fires his atomic breath, and this time as he's using his atomic breath, because it's atomic breath fires, and it gets really close to Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla fires his own ray to block Godzilla's breath, so that way Godzilla can't hit him. The two go back and forth, and one thing I noticed in this scene was that Godzilla's atomic breath, or Godzilla's dorsals, were not all of them were fully lit. Like the ones closer to the sides of his body weren't glowing nearly as much as the ones directly in the middle of the all the dorsals. And definitely I feel like this is because he kept using his atomic breath a lot, so this could really explain why it's not nearly as powerful here. Plus it does seem like his atomic breath did seem to look more like it was in King of the Monsters. Not as focused, at least to me, at least. And Mecha's, when it impacted, was a lot, Godzilla's beam was a lot closer, but immediately it slowly pushed Godzilla's beam back. And I think this is when Godzilla's trying to, you could see Godzilla just going all out, putting all of his energy into this beam to have it easily, Mechagodzilla, when he puts, at least a little bit more power into his beam, easily overpowers him. And another thing I wanted to mention here is that, in the scene where Ghidorah blasts Godzilla in Antarctica, he blasts him in the chest with his gravity beams and pushes Godzilla back. It's kind of resembling this scene, but the difference is Mechagodzilla's beam didn't nearly have as long as exposure, but yet it did a lot more damage. It's just something I wanted to point out. But Godzilla is left writhing in pain. He roars at Mechagodzilla at how much bullshit this fight is. So then we see that Godzilla gets grabbed by the scruff of the neck, behind his head, and gets thrown into a building, which pretty much Mechagodzilla probably walked up to him while he was on the ground and just picked him up and threw him into another building. And before Godzilla can even get up, it just seems like Godzilla can't even really get up nearly as quick, and Mechagodzilla just stomps on Godzilla's head, or at least the back of his neck. Then the next time we see Godzilla, he's getting dragged all along the ground. He's, getting scraped, and, Mechagodzilla's using his boosters. Sooner or later, as he's just dragging Godzilla, he just throws him forward, and Godzilla slides along the ground for eventually stopping, and Mechagodzilla walks up to him. And Godzilla, in the first time we've really truly ever seen Godzilla show true fear, as he looks into the eyes of a monster with no soul and doesn't care. this time he will humiliate Godzilla for what Godzilla did to him. So this is it for the Godzilla versus Godzilla versus mechagodzilla part of the Godzilla vs Kong battle. Now I decided not to do the Kong parts, just the purely Godzilla parts of it, just because I decided it's just purely the fight and not nothing else. So this is what I'm doing, and Tyraptor 101, and see you out. See ya later. Goodbye. Subscribe.